So I'm honestly not sure if people who subscribed to me in 2018 are still watching my content. And if you are, I'm just going to be explaining why I switched from taking concert videos and started fashion content. If you aren't, you can still watch as well. I think everyone can learn from this. So in 2018, 2015, I started taking pictures, landscape in Toronto. So I live in Canada. I started taking landscape pictures in Toronto, Canada, downtown. And from taking pictures, I actually started doing portraits. So I started taking portraits in 2015. Actually, probably 2016, I started taking portraits. Then eventually in 2017, early 2017, I've always loved music, and I decided might as well start taking pictures at concerts. I don't think I actually had been to a concert at that time. Only one. I think it was a Drake concert, but I'm not sure. But as of 2017, in January, I was like, yo, I have to start taking pictures at concerts. So the first artist I ever wanted to work with in Toronto was Roy Woods, and somehow I made some connections. I spent the whole year trying my best to get connections again to concerts, because if you do not have connections, you wouldn't be able to get into concerts, and if you get into concerts, you have to pay. So a lot of the concerts I went to, I didn't pay at all. Only some, like where I didn't have, only a few, which is like 2%, 3%, which I didn't pay, but most of the concerts I went to were for free, and I had some connections. Some of them were actually last minute. So basically what happened was in 2017, I think around September, I finally got someone to get me to a show, and it was in Oshawa. So that's close to Toronto. Yeah, it's kind of close to Toronto. If you know Toronto, or if you live in Ontario, Canada, then you probably know where, you've probably heard of Oshawa, or you've been there, or you live there or something. But that was my first show I went to. It was a very small show. I got into a Roy Woods show, and I was backstage. I was really happy, and because he was one of my favorite artists back then. He reminded me of Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson was actually one of my favorite artists when I was younger. Not anymore. He's still talented, but we're gonna get into that. But yeah, so basically what happened was in that show I met some people, and the second show was also I went to was a Roy Woods concert as well, and it was like I think 2 days after or the next weekend, I can't really remember, but this was in 2017, and the person that was supposed to get me in was the person that actually got me in the first concert, but he wasn't really responding, so I just showed up, and since they recognized me, they let me in. And once I got into the second show, I met like almost all like main people in Toronto. Like I made a lot of connections backstage. I met so many people, like their managers, people who are around major artists in Toronto. And from then on, I started seeing more people, and they recognized me. And I started making more connections, reaching out to people. And from then, I started taking concert videos almost every weekend. And the funny thing is, I used to travel all the way from Peterborough. So I know I've mentioned this before, but if you live in Canada, you've probably heard of Peterborough. I was going to university back then in 2017. I think I was in my final year. Yeah, I was in my final year. And I used to travel almost every single weekend. Like 2 hours, 30 minutes, sometimes 3 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes, all the way to get to Toronto. And the bus schedule wasn't that great. But either way, I'll still go to Toronto at night, at the nighttime, after school, and find my way into concerts, and I started making more connections. So I've been to so many concerts, so name any major artists. The last concert I actually did was in 2019, which was Tory Lanez. Was it 2019? Yeah, it was 2019 or 2020. I can't remember. Actually, it was 2020 April. I'm not sure. It was 2019, but it was right before the pandemic started. And that was my biggest concert I ever went to. and the video is still on my channel. I did take it off for some time, but I brought it back because I just want to give my story. And yeah, so that was my last concert. I know I keep going back and forth, but let's get back into it. So I went to the Roy Wood shows, then started making more connections. And before I knew it, I was at every single show, like in Toronto. So artists from the US, I somehow made some connections. I reached out to people, connected with people, and started going to every single concert. So TheWeekend, only a Drake concert I haven't shot as a major artist. Weekend, Drake. I haven't bumped into French Montana. I had a dinner with twice. I met Black, like personally, because he had some friends around him. So I met Black. I actually met him more than twice, so probably, I don't know. But yeah, so much was going on, and it felt cool. I was like, this is what I'm going to do in the future. Because I love creating content, like photos, videos. So I'm like, this is probably what I'm going to do in the future. But in 2020, actually, while I was always going to the concert, I'm going to give you a backstory of what was happening after each concert. Sometimes I couldn't actually go home. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car. So I used to rely on the bus. So most times I would actually stay at McDonald's, like actually sit down there throughout the whole night, and there'll be like homeless people, fights at night. So if you've been to Toronto downtown around Dundas Square, the McDonald's there is very ghetto, so there are always fights there at night. I even went to a pizza one time to get some food after a concert, and two guys were fighting over a girl, and so much was going on. Sometimes one McDonald's could be closed, and I have to move to another McDonald's or find somewhere else. Because I used to use Greyhound Station. I think Greyhound closed in Canada. But basically, Greyhound Station closed and opened around 5 a.m. And that's when you can get in and sit down and wait for your next bus. So I used to stay in McDonald's. And only a few times I did have some friends who allowed me to stay at a place. So sometimes I would stay at a place. But most times I was just walking the streets. The worst thing that ever happened, this is how I went to be very successful in this industry. So this is how serious I was. One time I actually stayed at Nathan Phillips Square, sitting down. I was actually just sitting down outside. No one was there. It was cold. I was wearing my jacket. I don't think it was that cold, but it was cold. I sat down. I just lay down on my side, and I stayed till, I think I was half asleep, but I slept a little bit. I stayed till 5 a.m., then walked all the way to the Greyhound station. So that's how bad it was. That's how bad I wanted to succeed in the music industry. So one thing I noticed is each time I went downtown Toronto, there were always some preachers at Dundas Square. So David Lynn and also a preacher named Tory Lanez. I used to see them in 2017 after my concert, and I'm actually standing there. I'm like, wow, these guys are really bold. A lot of the things they're saying are very true. And I was convicted, but I was still doing whatever, like still going to concerts. And I'm going to explain why I wouldn't suggest personally going for concerts. I know how you're wondering, how does this tie to fashion? I'm going to explain at the end, so wait till the end, and I'm going to explain why I started creating designs and started creating fashion content, and what my end goal is for this channel. So I got convicted, but it didn't sit down. Over time, the kind of music I started listening to more of like J. Cole, Kendrick, because I noticed that a lot of people, like, music was just about like negative stuff, promotion of violence, and things that are not good for our society. The music does sound good. However, in general, the music sounds good, but it's not good. The content, the lyrics doesn't actually help you in any way. It just promotes violence and things that destroy us as a society. So there's a lot of artists. I can mention them. Okay, Tory Lanez. I've been to so many Tory Lanez. That's a whole different story. If you guys would like to hear that, and you have like how I met Tory Lanez and some of his family members, they're actually pretty cool. But if you guys want to hear that, that's another story. I can tell you guys. Just comment down below. But I met Tory Lanez. I was around Roy Woods, French Montana, Black. Which other concert? Honestly, check my Davido, Wizkid. So I keep forgetting the artists I actually went to their concerts or took pictures of their concert or videos. So I'm just gonna mention them. So some of the artist concerts I went to was Travis Scott, Nav, 88 Glam, Killy, Tory Lanez, Division, Dubs, DVBBs. I didn't even know who they were, but I somehow got to their concert and I was backstage. YBN Nahmir, I already mentioned Roy Woods, Belly, Black, Back on Ice, Lecrae, Sabrina Claudio, A Boogie, Wizkid, Burnaby. I probably already mentioned that as well. But those are just few. Some of them that they had openers, so I also took pictures of them. So what happened was, after going to the Tory Lanez concert, which was the biggest concert I've ever been to, was when the pandemic hit. So I think it was, yeah. So I think I got it right now. So it was after the concert was before the pandemic hit. It was like a couple months after or 2 months after. And basically, everyone stayed home and were consuming content online. So one random day, I actually came across David Lynn's content on YouTube, and I started watching it, and I'm like, everything he's saying is true. Like, every single thing he's saying is true. I mean, some approaches where I didn't understand at that point, but it changed my mind about going to concerts. I started seeing things differently. Concerts are one experience I actually had at a concert, which was like, I can't believe this is happening, was at a Burnaby concert in 2019, and someone was like insulting an opener because it wasn't Burnaby on stage. I'm like, wow, just because he's not famous yet. If he was famous, you will do anything. So that's one thing that I didn't like. It was kind of weird. Another thing I noticed in concerts was, if people touch an artist, sometimes artists go around, take their phones or like touch people's hands or whatever. They're like, oh my God. Or they're like, oh my, I touched this artist, or he looked at my eyes or something, which is crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. It's literally like worshiping, like people, this society, like the concert industry is like they're worshiping artists. They don't know, but it's just like this music is huge. Music is beautiful, it's a good thing. But when it comes to concerts and the music too as well, but it's like a whole culture of people worshiping an artist. And no one should be worshipped. It's only God that should be worshipped. So, like, it started making me think different, especially with watching David Lynn's content and Tory Love's content. I got convicted. Then as of August 2020, I actually left Instagram for like 4 months. I came back in December or ending of November, but I left Instagram because I didn't want to use Instagram again. All I was doing was just promoting these artists that people worship indirectly without knowing. Because people, I've gotten so many messages from so many people in DMs making some weird requests, or people treat you differently. Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of people treated me differently because I was working with all these artists, and I got used to it. Like, I got used to working with these artists, so it was like nothing to me. But people elevated me. They treated me like I was a celebrity, and some of my friends back then, or people I knew back then, were starting to treat me differently. They were jealous, and they weren't supporting me. When they see me, they look at me funny. they're like, oh, yo, you're that guy who, or you work with Drake now or something like that, trying to be funny but being sarcastic and showing jealousy. But yeah, I had to deal with so much during that time. Also, when I was also, I know I keep on going, I've said this before, but I keep on going all around the place. But even in the music industry, it was so toxic. If someone noticed, like, especially two people who are around me at certain concerts, so if they notice you're just starting out, they'll treat you like you're no one. Like, so I used to take pictures. They also used to take pictures as well alongside. But because they noticed I just started out in 2017, all the way in 2017, they were treating me weird. They were treating me like, oh, first they'll try to get to know you just in case you're like someone famous or you've accomplished so much. But they were treating me differently and weird. But over time, as I started going to more concerts, they were like, oh, yo, bro, you're everywhere. You're like everywhere. They're trying to talk to you or whatever. But yeah, there's so much toxic things. I found myself in different circles I shouldn't have been. Like, I've found myself in, man, like people who, like, violence. People who have been gone to jail for violence against, like, at a playground, which is actually crazy. I don't know how I found myself, but it was related to some artists which I met somewhere. So yeah, I found myself all over the place, and I noticed that people were losing, like, actually around, not a lot of people I personally know, but people I was working around were losing their lives, which was actually crazy. So, man, so many things were going on. I may not remember everything in detail, but so many things were going on around. But basically in August, when I came back, like, I started reflecting, and I was like, there's no point, I can't use Instagram. But I came back, and one thing I've always enjoyed when I was younger was fashion. So fashion is something, like, back in the day. So I'm originally from Nigeria, like, I'm Nigerian. I moved here about 10 years ago or 9 years ago, depending on where you're seeing, I don't know. I moved here about 10 or 9 years ago, and back in school, back in the day, I used to be that person, like, giving advice on, everyone's looking forward to my outfits. I'm giving advice during, like, the special days we have for wearing clothes that are not uniforms. But yeah, I always love fashion, and I always used to go out shopping, sneaking out, save up some money, and buy the latest or something that looks good. Back in the day, it used to be like multicolored skinny jeans. Like, if you guys know, if you're old enough, the multicolored skinny jeans, New Boys era, I used to be that person wearing the studs on the belt and multicolored skinny jeans. Our clothes were colorful, snapbacks. I don't know, was it snapbacks? I'm not sure. But different colored hats. I had all the different colored hats. I had glasses, everything, name it. I had it. But yeah, so I was just reflecting. I'm like, yeah, fashion, I left it, so I might as well just come back into it. So what I started doing was I started actually creating designs. I actually created a TikTok account, which I no longer use any longer. But I created a TikTok account, and since my mind was renewed and changed, everything I wanted to do was just to glorify God. Because this music industry, everything doesn't glorify God. Some people, they say, oh yeah, they credit God in their songs, but crediting God for things that are not even godly, which doesn't make any sense. There's just so many things going on with that were so wrong, and yeah, I wish I brought my water because I'm actually thirsty right now. But yeah, so basically I created, like, merch, which was actually selling. It was doing well. This was around, like, February, January, while I was still working a full-time job. I think I used to work at a bank. That's actually true. While I was still going to concerts, I was actually working at a bank, RBC Royal Bank. People just thought I was doing that full-time. Even people I knew from a long time ago, they thought I was doing that full-time. But I was actually working at a bank as of that time. Working at a bank full-time and always at concerts at the weekends or even weekdays sometimes, going to Toronto. I think eventually I moved to Mississauga, And I used to live in Peterborough, like 2 hours away, but eventually I moved to Mississauga, and I was still taking concert videos. So I created a brand, and I think the name was it didn't actually have a brand name. That's crazy, but I did have different merch. One was Trust God Saved. If you go to my Instagram, you still see the one that says Saved, and it's on my Instagram right now. You guys can check it out. But I was creating designs, and I actually loved the creating designs because I was actually using scripture to think about it, since I was learning more about God and also the Bible as well. So I was using scripture to create my designs, thinking about how this would work. So those were the two main designs, but I had multiple other designs and people were buying on TikTok. But yeah, I stopped that. But after stopping that, I actually wanted to get back into photography again. I still will get back into photography eventually, maybe next year in January 2023. It's currently December 2022. But as of right now, I'm on a break from photography. But I wanted to get back into photography, and I wasn't really feeling it, to be honest. I took a long break from photography during the pandemic. My page wasn't active for like 2 years, like only post once in a while, like once a year. It was quite a long time I was inactive. I even deactivated my account again, and people were DMing my other account, wondering where I went, like what's going on with me. And so I basically said, it's kind of different. I've switched from landscape to concert. Actually, one thing that people don't know is my Instagram account actually started with fashion content only. That was way back. Like, it was my personal account. My bigger account right now, Julius_AGEN, was actually more like a personal account, then turned into fashion. There's a whole nother story, like how I go into what happened after trying to take pictures and posting fashion, like 2013, 2014. But that's a whole nother story. If you guys would like to hear that, it's just basically how I go into the gym and try to stay fit. But if you guys like to hear that, just comment down below and I'll make another video. And I think that going to the gym this is a sidetrack, but going to the gym is very important if you want your outfits to look good. So basically what happened after was I started creating fashion content. So as of 2022 February, I was still working, but I moved to another job. After working at the bank. And February 2022, I was like, let me take a break and let me start creating fashion content. So I started creating fashion content on TikTok. And TikTok was very toxic. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was actually posting every day. It wasn't easy. I was posting every day, recording on a camera and editing and putting in so much work. I don't know, I had so much discipline. I don't know how I was doing it. I'm trying to get back to editing every day and posting every day and making content every day. But I was so hungry for it. And eventually my TikTok account right now has 11K followers. I'm trying to get to 100K. Once I reach to 100K on YouTube and TikTok, I would actually that's the end goal for me. I want to create a brand that glorifies God and actually unique pieces that look really nice that everyone can wear. So that's the end goal for this channel. But basically that's what I did. That's where I'm currently. I'm at, I think on this channel I'm at 1,700 subscribers. By next year 2023, I'm hoping to reach, I'll be realistic, hopefully 50, 60K, hopefully more. If I could reach more, I would appreciate that. So if you've seen this video and you enjoyed it so far, I'm not ending the video yet, don't go. But yeah, if you see this video so far, make sure you subscribe and support me. I'm just starting out. I haven't been consistent this year, but I'm trying my best to be as consistent as possible. And that's basically it. That's my end goal of this channel. I want to create a huge, not necessarily a huge brand. It could be a huge brand eventually, but it's a brand that glorifies God. And I also want to give you guys fashion advice from what I've learned from people, and I also learned from you guys as well. Because there was actually a time I stopped buying clothes, and because I was more focused on other things, and I wasn't following like what's going on in fashion. But yeah, that's my end goal. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and if you want me to talk about any topic or anything I talked about, like getting into content or whatever, or more in detail, just comment down below. And make sure you subscribe, and make sure you follow me on Instagram as well, and TikTok. Everything will be in the description. And if you actually watch all the way to the end, I'm just gonna say thank you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.